Right, so here we are with Acapulco Bay actor Ash, who was playing the villain Max Hauser. So happy to meet you finally.
Meet you.
Yeah,
Nice to be
here. A lot of Ethiopians will be thrilled to see this interview because you are, I would say, one of the most popular American actor in the Ethiopian community. So we start this interview, I would say, just naturally how you got into acting and how come to the point where you start to act on this
professionally.
Yeah.
I was about 13 and I was going to school in Malibu, California, where I grew up.
Okay.
And every morning I would see Steve McQueen, Diane Cannon, Cary Grant, Ali McGraw. These were big stars in the 70s, in the 70s, and into the 80s. Steve McQueen's an icon, and Cary Grant is certainly an icon. And in my 13-year-old brain, I saw who Steve McQueen and Cary Grant were married to, and they were married to these beautiful actresses.
Yeah.
Ali McGraw was with Steve McQueen at the time, and Diane Cannon was with Cary Grant. And they had Jennifer, that was their daughter. And I thought, I guess I got to be an actor if I'm ever going to get a girl that looks like that.
Oh, okay.
So that was my first motivation was to be like Steve McQueen and Cary Grant and get a beautiful actress on my.
Great. So how did you get the first, to get into acting?
The first professionally?
Yeah, professionally.
I started to study after that summer, 13, 14 years old. I started to do summer theater. I started to study with some people in Hollywood, Lillian Chauvin, Jack Coslin, tons of people.
Okay.
And then when I was 18 or 19, I was reading for the first Nightmare on Elm Street, Wes Craven's movie. And I went in to read for Wes Craven, and I went in 3 or 4 times to read for Wes Craven for the lead in Nightmare on Elm Street, and it was down to me and Johnny Depp.
Oh, really?
And I got a phone call the next day after my last meeting with Wes, and I said hello, and I said hold for Wes Craven, and Wes got on the phone and said, hey, listen, Adams, I got to give it to Johnny. And I said, and I was really mad. I said, why? I said, why? Why do you got to give it to him? And he says, well, I need a certain innocence for this role, and let's face it, you've never been innocent. And I couldn't argue with him.
You couldn't argue with that.
Couldn't argue with him.
Yeah.
It just didn't. I didn't have that Johnny Depp beauty and innocence, that he's retained his whole career.
Yeah.
He's a beautiful guy. He's a great actor, and but I've always hated him for that.
You have grudges in your heart. So that was it.
That was the first one.
That
was how I got in the union here, and the Screen Actors Guild was through that movie. And Wes gave me one line because he was nice, because he didn't give me the lead. He gave it to Johnny. He said, look, I'll give you a part so you can get your SAG card. And I was 18.
Okay.
And so that was very nice of him. And so I did my one line, and it got cut out of the movie. It never ended up in the movie. But I got my SAG card, and I was off and running. And I started making the rounds in town here in Hollywood and auditioning. And I started to study with the head of casting for ABC Daytime, which was Bobby Hoffman. And he started to give me, I started to join his classes. I was in class with him several times a week, and he kept putting me up for soap operas. And if they were trying to cast a girl, they would let me come in and read the guy part. For the girl who was screen testing.
Gotcha.
And he said, look, they'll notice you eventually. If I put you here, they'll. And eventually I was screen testing for ABC, and I screen tested for All My Children a couple of times, and then I went to New York. They flew me to New York in 1986. They flew me to New York to test for All My Children. And I didn't get it. And they took my test, and they gave it to Ryan's Hope
Yeah.
at ABC because they were looking for someone to play John Ryan.
Yeah.
And they called me back a couple months later to test for John Ryan for Ryan's Hope, and I ended up getting that, and that was a 3-year contract.
Nice.
And that was really the beginning of my career, was playing John Ryan on Ryan's Hope.
Okay.
It was great.
Great. Let's get close to the most important part, the
Right.
Acapulco Bay.
Right. Right.
So how were you casted for that one? How did you hear about it?
That was an interesting time, because that was 1994. I had already obviously done my 3 years on Ryan's Hope. After that, in 1989, I came back from New York to Los Angeles, and Stephen Cannell hired me to do a 2-hour pilot for ABC. ABC hired me again to do Thunderbolt Row. We went down to Miami and shot a 2-hour movie of the week pilot for Thunderbolt Row with me and Jesus Garcia and Rob Estes and Peter Murnick, so some really cool people. And we did that, and I came back, and they got in an argument, Stephen Cannell and ABC, about how they were going to make the show, and Stephen just went, not going to make the show.
Okay.
So then I went and did The Young Riders for ABC, and did the 2-hour season finale of that in 1990, and then 91, I started to do guest stars and movies, and so it was around 1994, I got a call from my manager, and he said, look, there's this thing. And I said, what thing? And he said, well, it's a soap opera. And I said, I told you I'm not going to do any more soap operas.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to do them anymore. Because you have to understand about soap operas, not Acapulco Bay, but the way they were shot here, the way they're still shot here, is 90% of it you're in a studio.
I know.
You've got 3 cameras, and it's a very functional, very specific way of telling a story. And it's very repetitive. It's very redundant.
Yeah.
You have to say the same thing over and over again because people are doing the housework while they're watching, and they're looking at a screen this big, and it's a very, very difficult job being on a soap, and you can't. You have to do it a certain way. There's a very specific structure on how to do it. And I didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
You know? I loved doing it when I did it in my 20s, and I was very fortunate to get to do Ryan's Hope for ABC. I just didn't want to do it. So he said, look, it shoots in Mexico City and Acapulco. And I said, okay, I'm listening. And he said, it's a telenovela. And I said, but isn't that the same thing as a soap opera? He goes, no, it's not. It is, but it isn't.
Yeah.
And the difference a lot of the times is that in Mexico and abroad, they're shown at night sometimes too.
Yeah.
So he wasn't really lying to me.
Yeah.
But
there are differences, but it's also the same.
Yeah, they would air at different times. Soap operas here always in the morning and into the afternoon. So he said it's called a telenovela, and it's a co-production between Fox, between 20th Century Fox Television and Televisa in Mexico. And he said, just go in and meet the casting director. I believe it was Joy Todd. I think it was Joy Todd. Very nice woman. And so I went in and I met with her, and I read with her, and she said, you know,
you got the.
She didn't say you got it, but she said you got to come back and read for the producers and all that. So I called my manager and I said, look, this is getting real. You know, what do they want to do? And he said, well, you know, do you want to do it? And I said, well, you know, I'm not working. Of course I want to do it.
Yeah.
And I love the role. I just don't know about going to Mexico for 6 months or a year. You know, I have a dog, and you know, am I going to get to take my dog? I wanted to take my dog.
Yeah.
So, and I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
But so I went in and I met the producer Carlos Sotomayor. Very interesting, nice man. Successful guy, very successful dude in Mexico and in telenovelas.
Yeah.
And I read for them, and I got a call from my manager later that day, and they said they want you to go. And I said, okay. So we talked about the money and all that. And he said, so what do you want to ask them? What are your demands? I said, I don't have any demands. I just would like to take my dog with me.
Yeah.
So he said, all right, I'll call you back. He said, no way. They're not going to let you bring your dog. You're going to be living in hotels.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to be 2 weeks in Mexico City, and then you get on a plane and go to Acapulco for 2 weeks. So that's how we did it. 2 weeks in Acapulco, 2 weeks in Mexico City.
What was the reason?
Because we did all the interiors at Televisa at the studio in Mexico City, and then the house, the big mansion in Acapulco, we would do all the exteriors in Acapulco, which was great because Mexico City the air quality is unbelievably bad because you're 7,000 feet up and there's 30 million people. There's probably more now, but then there was 30 million people and you're at 7,000 feet. So there's no air. It's just all cars. You know, so you would, after 2 weeks you get black lung. And then we'd go to the beach and we'd all get to like detox and clean out. It was great. It was really a nice, we had a lot of fun. So they said, you can't bring your dog. And I said, well, I'm not going. Hung up the phone. And he called me back about an hour later and he goes, are you really going to pass on the job because they won't let you bring your dog? I said, yes. And I hung up the phone.
Wow.
Calls me back about 10 minutes later and he goes, really? Are you going to? And I said, no, I'll get someone to come live at the house. So I moved a friend of mine into my place. I was living in the Hollywood Hills at the time. And so I had a friend move in and take care of my dog. And we were off and running. And we all met each other at the airport for the first time. You know, nobody knew who was who. We didn't know each other. And we became this a very close family very fast.
So let's talk about the production, how the interaction between actors. One of the questions asked by audience is, do you have any when you talk to each other, have personal conversation? Do you guys have some kind of do Rachel close to you or to Tony in real life? In real life,
that's a very sneaky question. We all, like I said, we all became fast friends, and we spent all day and all night together. There was 8 or 9 of us that went down there, including the director, Tom DeSimone, terrific guy, and there was 8 or 9 of us Americans, the director and the cast, coming down, and then the rest were all Latin and Mexican crew and cast. So we immediately got thrown into a pool of really terrific actors that live in Mexico City and Acapulco. I think most of them were hired out of Mexico City through Televisa, obviously. But it was like most jobs that go on longer than a week or two. You have to find who you're comfortable with and who you want to spend the time with when you're not shooting. And it just so happened that we all liked each other enough to want to spend the time with each other. And there was never any issues between us. We all liked each other. We all had a lot of fun. We were young, and most of them were younger than me.
Oh, really?
But I was in my 30s at the time, and Michael Cole was an older actor who used to be on the Mod Squad back in the 60s, 70s, and so he was the oldest. But Michael was a good dude. But it was a great group of people, you know, and we really didn't have a problem with each other. I love Tony. You know, Tony and I were obviously playing Cain and Abel from the Bible. You know, if you want to put it that way. I always saw us as Cain and Abel.
It is.
And we used to talk about that. That we were definitely Cain and Abel. We spent a lot of time together, and we worked out together, and we all did that. We all had to stay in shape, and we all had a very small window of time in between shooting. There wasn't a lot of downtime. You know, I mean, I think maybe out of all the episodes, maybe I wasn't in 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
But the rest.
You were almost
I think
in
I was
most
in
of them.
Most of them.
Yeah.
And Tony and Raquel, they were in almost every frame of the thing, you know, because their love story was the key.
But I would say you and Raquel are the one who acted the most.
Yes,
because
we had the
Tony
most
was
conflict.
not there
Yeah, we
sometimes.
had the most conflict because he was the how do I say this? The conflict was between me and Raquel.
That's the most important part of the show, I would say.
But the separate was between me and Tony.
Yeah.
And that was a sibling rivalry that he had more than me and I wanted what he had.
Yeah.
So I wanted to take the entire fortune from myself through her
Yeah.
and to eliminate him so that I not only get the fortune but I get the girl.
Yeah.
And it was
But you couldn't win the love.
no, and I wasn't interested in that.
I know.
It didn't. Max wasn't interested in the love. He was.
Yeah.
He was in it for the gain. That was.
Yeah,
He was in
yeah.
it. He was in it for what he could get.
So let's talk about the character, Max.
Mm-hmm.
I would say for guys, even for girls, it's more. I mean, the Tony is a very nice guy. Okay, fine, lovable. Everybody would be interested in him.
Yes.
Your character was really very prominent, I would say, because it shows emotions, it shows action, it shows your, your commitment to do what you want. Your anger is
to get what I need and what I'm after.
And your anger was so contagious. I would
Yeah.
say most people would be like imitating it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That his anger was contagious. That's interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people get out of after watching an episode, get out and start acting the part
Right.
of that how you express yourself.
Well, that's interesting because when you say that his anger was contagious, you know, a villain, and this is my feeling of it, a villain is born out of fear and sadness. That's where we come from as villains, and that fear and sadness evolves into rage and vengeance to get back at the people that scared him and the circumstances that made him sad.
Yeah.
So all great villains have this huge hurt
Inside them.
They have this huge amount of fear and hurt, and that's where their rage is born.
Yeah.
And all fun villains to watch are guys and girls that are running off of that, you know, that fear and that sadness and that hurt. So I had to constantly be in that state of wide open, so that I didn't have to search for it.
That's what one of the most important question I would say is, how do you draw that character? Does it come from
It's all
practice?
personal. No, it's all personal.
Okay.
It's all personal.
Yeah.
It's you take whatever your circumstances are and you put them into the imaginary circumstances of the show and the character and the situation and the mise en scene. But
if we change it, let's say you act like Tony act like you, would that be possible?
Of course.
Okay.
Absolutely, but not in those conditions.
Okay.
Because Anthony and I talked about this a lot. We talked about where we came from, where our characters came from, and how we grew up, and where our feelings were born, and our relationship between each other, and how we feel about each other. And we came to some very interesting conclusions that we never shared with anybody. You know, we never talked about it. It was our private
conversation.
Yeah, it was our private knowledge that drove us. But there was a love there too, that you can see every once in a while. That every once in a while they would have a moment, and they would almost come together.
As a brother.
And Max would almost
brothers.
drop all that stuff because Tony would just, hey man.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, and he was so loving. And I think that's part of Tony that Tony had himself had a very caring, loving part of himself that came through, and I think that's why his character was so popular with so many with women, because women felt that love from him.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, it would almost get through to Max. You know, Max would just start to. And he would go, no! You know, and he'd shut it down, and you'd see, and that happened quite a bit. Not as much as I would have liked, but it happened quite a bit.
Yeah.
And you know, so no, we couldn't just flip-flop, you know, if we wanted to, but you know.
No. My question is like the character sometimes needs the personality of the person.
Yes.
So at that particular age, you know, you're 30 whatever. If you have, let's say, you're a party animal or something, you meet, you know, you're a single person, something like that, and another guy who is very decent, grow up in a very very routine kind of lifestyle, might fit Tony's.
Right. And I think the casting.
It comes also from personality.
Yeah, and I think it's
lifestyle.
It's what you give. You know, I mean, it's what you walk in the room with. It's how producers and directors and writers choose their actors for movies and television, is what you walk in the room with, and how they feel being around you. And I think the most important thing for that is if you're going in for a bad guy, as I was for Max, no bad guy thinks he's a bad guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Max didn't think he was a bad guy.
I know, at that time,
He thought he was a good guy.
Yeah.
He was just doing what was necessary to get what he wanted.
Yeah.
And if he was doing things that were bad, that other people thought they were bad, he had a very good reason for it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and that seems sort of, you know, trite, but it's not.
Yeah.
You can't judge him as an actor. You can't judge the character you're playing.
Yeah.
Because then you start to second guess your reactions and your instincts, and you can't do that.
You can't.
It's not fun to watch.
Gotcha.
You know, it's not fun to watch.
It was really look natural. Really.
Well, it was, and we had no choice, you know, because everyone had to live within the structure of this very fast, very quick. I mean, we shot a lot of episodes really fast. I mean, that was 6 months of sometimes it's 60 episodes, sometimes it's 120 episodes, or depending on whether they show them as an hour or a half hour. So, you know, that was just, it was a lot of work really quick. So we didn't have time to sit around and decide, you know, what we were doing. We all, I think, were cast because we walked in the room with a certain vibe and a certain, vibrating at a certain frequency where the people in charge went, okay, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so, and that's so-and-so. And there was a very interesting dynamic between me and Tony and Raquel that seemed to work. You know, that we had enough, I think, enough affection for each other, and also enough confusion about each other, because we really didn't know each other. But we felt like we did, but we really didn't. But enough confusion to keep us off center and guessing, like, well, what are they going to do in this? Where are they coming from here? And that's pretty integral when you're working fast and loose like that.
So how was the reception of the show
when we first finished?
After it was, you know.
I guess it showed in one market here in San Diego as a test run. And before that happened, right before it was going to happen, we all had a press conference in San Diego, where we met some press and we did some interviews, and we all got up on the dais and got online and answered questions, and I think it did okay, but they decided not to run it in any other American markets. They decided to use it for European and worldwide distribution, which we all didn't really know what they were doing with the show because they never told us what they were doing. And you got to understand also, in Mexico, it's very different with actors down there than it is. You know, actors don't have any real power and control down there. You know, they pretty much do as they're told. And this was very interesting. When we first got to Televisa, and they were taking us through the studio, we were watching other shows being taped. And we noticed they all had earpieces in. Did Raquel talk about this?
No.
Okay, this was mind-blowing. All the actors were wearing earpieces, and I said to one of the directors, I said, what's with the earpiece? He goes, oh, they're having their lines fed to them.
They don't remember?
I said,
Wow.
what did you just say? And he said, oh yeah, they all have to do that. And I said, why? He said, because we don't want to stop. It's about money. They want to keep going. So not only are the actors hearing their lines, they're hearing everyone else's lines.
Wow.
And I said, I can't do that. And they said, oh, you're going to have to. And I said, oh, no, I'm not. There's absolutely no way am I going to put an earpiece in my ear and listen to my words be read to me from somebody in the booth and then hear everyone else's lines on top of it. That's impossible. He goes, oh, it's the only way it's done down here.
Wow.
It was staggering. It was absolutely staggering. So I remember I think we all had a trial run
To see
if we could do it. And we all we got to do this, so because nobody wanted to do it. Nobody wanted to wear these earpieces.
Yeah.
And a lot of television shows here have teleprompters, what are called teleprompters, which
Wow,
are the dialogue is running on a screen.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't use them a lot anymore, but they used to use them a lot. And so if you forgot a line, you could adjust and you could look over and you could see your line, and then you could go back in and say it. And some people were really good at it. Some people could shifty-eyed get it and never learn their lines.
Yeah.
I was never good at it. I was never good at it. So we all decided that we had to really nail it the first couple of shows, so they would see that we weren't going to cost the production money by stopping and going, line.
Gotcha.
And we all just crushed it, I think. So they went, okay, you guys
You don't need it.
We never used them.
Yeah.
We never used them.
Yeah. That's really professional.
Oh,
Yeah, that was great.
That was scary.
Yeah. So I would say after that they start to distribute it globally to
Right, and we didn't know.
That's where it came to Ethiopia.
That's right.
Yeah.
And 96, right?
96.
96.
Yes.
So that was a year after we did it. The next year.
Yeah. 96. Yes.
Because we finished in 95, and
Yes, 96 exactly. I was
and after
I was
San
a
Diego,
freshman student.
Yeah. Where were you?
I was a freshman student. I was in university. I was
Great.
19 years old, 18.
Oh, such a baby. Such a baby.
Yeah.
After San Diego, we didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
They didn't tell us anything.
Wow, it was the #1 show in Ethiopia. Literally, people miss appointments, things to watch that show. When they end it, they have that suspense next week. That kind of thing kept people really tight for week after week.
I think it's great.
It's really now people hear about you, hear about Raquel. They really want to meet you in person. One of the things that we are trying to do is send you to Ethiopia.
Yeah.
So if there is a way to get you there, I would say the national TV it was the one that shows it.
Right.
The #1 TV channel in Ethiopia. They would be interested.
I'm sure we would. I know Raquel would love to go. I know I would love to go. And I actually spoke to the ambassador down there. I didn't speak. I emailed with the ambassador in Ethiopia, the American ambassador in Ethiopia.
Okay. The current one?
I don't know. It was 5 years ago.
Oh.
So
They keep changing.
yeah, I'm sure. And I got a response that was, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like this. It was, yeah, we're having some problems down here right now, and the last thing we're going to spend money on is to bring actors to Ethiopia.
Oh.
Thanks a lot. And I was like, and I wrote him back and I said, of course you're not going to do that, because that actually might make people happy. Thank you.
that
was it.
Sarcasm.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, yeah. I mean, that was upsetting.
I know.
Because I had, that was so after. So after the thing with the ambassador, I was upset because I had just learned through Facebook that there was this unbelievable, reaction to Acapulco Bay and over the last 10, 15 years or whatever it was when I found it. And I was like, I thought to myself, well, we got to get down there.
Yeah.
And I talked to a couple of people about getting down there and being sponsored to go down through a beer company.
Yeah.
You know, and a couple other people, and they were like, "Yeah, we're going to do it." This was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And finally, I gave up because it was so difficult.
Yeah.
To communicate and to try to schedule it and
you know, go all that.
well, it was also we didn't know. You know, we also didn't. I didn't want to go down there unless I could do something. You know, I go through the university maybe in Ethiopia and maybe teach a seminar and teach a class in acting for 6 weeks or something, or do something where I could actually interact with people and have some fun and have there be some publicity so that people know that we're there.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
that we're
definitely.
coming. And I just gave up. I didn't know how to do that.
This is a good opportunity. Our website will, you know, we're going to stream this on our website, on our YouTube channel.
Well, we'll talk about that.
So, no, I would say, you know, a lot of audience, a lot of people would see it and they will respond, you know, personally they can contact you. You can mention your, you know, Facebook page, Instagram
well, again,
page.
I would love to go. I mean, I
Yeah.
would love to go there. It would be a great trip and an honor to meet everybody.
Yeah, great. So if you have anything to say to Ethiopian audience.
Love you guys. Thank you for watching all these years. I can't believe it's been almost 25 years. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But hopefully I'll meet you soon. And God bless, and I love you all.
All right. That's it.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.